experience the full power of the dark side. Good!
We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
What the? Misa back!
Prepare to fire!
Oh no!
Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Beyond the Stars for episode number 34, recorded on Thursday, May 28th, 2015. I'm your host, Fred, aka Sith Lord Corv. And joining me tonight is the commander of Sith Intelligence, Agent Louis Olan.
Hello, Fred. Hello, everyone on Twitch, Hitbox, YouTube. What is going on? And as always, greetings from Sith Intelligence.
And we're a day late because Treek decided to drink half the oil.
Me too.
Ugh.
Yeah, nothing kills that thing.
Manamachu?
So are we all leveled out on the oil pressure and everything, Captain Kimbray?
All readings are good and we're ready to take off.
Yeah, she's here as well.
Oh yeah, she's here.
And by she, I mean Treek.
Oh!
Oh, and Captain Kimbray's here too.
Oh yeah, that one's here.
And that pile of parts in the corner is ID-10T. One of us is really going to start using that Star Wars Day droid we got for free. I already broke Lou's taking all the parts out to fix ID-10T.
Well, I was wondering what happened to mine. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. We offer free shout-outs, where we'll announce any birthday, anniversary, or anything you'd like us to. Just go ahead and send us an email. StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. Let us know. We'd be happy to shout things out for you. And we're available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SWTORNetwork.com. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyond Podcast. And you can tweet us at StarWarsBeyond. Our usual record time is Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at hitbox.tv/StarWarsBeyond. And Paige, what is coming up in the Captain's Log tonight?
Coming up in the Captain's Log, we have our Last Week in Game, tonight's discussion, our thoughts on the points raised by a Bad Feeling podcast interview with Alex, say that guy's last name?
Modny.
Modny, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to butcher it. I wanted to be kind. Also, we have Agent Olan's Intelligence Report, where Lou will present the Black Suns, plus the weekly winner of the Agent Star Wars Trivia Question of the Week and your feedback in our community holo feed.
And we do have something quick to mention, and we'll try to be really quick about this one. And this is posted on the forums, and this is regarding a missing temple chair, the basic one, and this is from Tate, who says, "Hey folks, we looked into this, and it turns out the chair was never intended to be in the pack, but appeared in the decorations UI as being available from it. To remedy this, we are going to add the decoration to the S-Tran Exploits reputation vendor for 1 credit with no reputation requirement. This will go into the game with 3.2.2. Thanks all, Tate, Grand Emperor of Chairs and End Tables."
I find his title very amusing.
What a slap in the face to the RPers. We're going to give you a free chair, but you can't sit in it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just there. You know, it's like a table you can't put stuff on, and chairs you can't sit in, along with the couches.
I do like this approach, though. Like, everything that they ever F up decoration-wise ends up on a freaking vendor that we can get for 1 credit.
For 1 credit. So in the end, we all end up getting it anyway, which is kind of helpful. And the next thing we're going to bring up an interesting change from the 3.2.1 patch notes. It would appear that Sage's force armor was not absorbing the same amount of damage that the Inquisitor's static barrier did. From the notes, it would appear that static barrier was weaker, but that has been balanced in this patch. Also, let's talk about Strike Fighters, which was posted today in the dev blog around 2:36 p.m. I guess their time, Central Standard Time. It starts off, howdy fly girls and fly boys.
Howdy.
I'll be blunt. Strike Fighters need lots of love. The original design is that they are the jack of all trades, jack of all and master of none. But they have filled out this role too well, and because of it, are rarely a compelling option. We want to talk about how Strike Fighters can be made into a good option to bring in any match, by any skill level. We have some ideas of what we want to do with them, but because this community is always very impressive, with communication and feedback, we want to get your thoughts on what you think is the best course of action. We know there are some fantastic threads and posts aplenty that already cover this information, but we want to consolidate and create a focused discussion. We want to set expectations though. This is just about gathering feedback and creating a focused discussion on which to possibly make changes based off of. Just a heads up, and Musco made me say it. So, what are your pet peeves about Strike Fighters? If you could only pick one section to buff, would you choose to improve their maneuverability, secondary weapons, primary weapons, or defense? Or something different? What would make them more effective in both game modes? Looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts. Alex Modny.
There you
Okay.
have it. Confirmed. Galactic Starfighter getting new content.
Two things. I got two things. One, yay, Galactic Starfighter's getting something new. It's been a while. And two, I really like this post from Alex. I like that he's like, all right, I acknowledge that you guys have said this stuff before, but we're going to make a new post. This is all we're going to talk about. And as though he didn't say, don't be a jerk, that's kind of the feel I get from it. Come in here with real suggestions and come in here and act like you got some sense.
P.S. Leave my family alone.
Yeah, and I like that he's like, well, you know, you guys are really, what does he say? Always very impressive with communication and feedback. We want to get your thoughts on what you think is the best course of action. They're asking us, what do you want? And that's something that we should be happy that we're getting, especially from a gaming company.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think the Galactic Starfighter community is such a small and focused group that they should be able to give some very constructive feedback. Come on, Ash, get to it.
Right, and even then, you know, if they really want to control the discussion, part of it's also gonna, I think, is going to have to be on, you know, Alex's part, Eric's part, or whoever's moderating that particular thread, to just go out there and just remove, you know, the trash posts that are going to pop in there, you know, because I don't want to sound like a cynic, but the reality says there's going to be one or two idiots who are going to go on that thread and just post complete garbage and not be supportive of the discussion. They're just going to say, "Oh, GSF has been surfing for a while, blah blah blah," and that's it.
Yeah.
No real suggestions. You know, no real critique. It's just, "Oh, this sucks." That is all.
Just someone going in there and spewing Shiduki out of their mouth. Or fingers, whatever.
Yeah, they will do that. They'll go on there and this game mode's dead. It doesn't have anybody that plays it. And blah,
Right,
blah, blah.
or you know, the posts that are going to say, "Oh my God, devote your energy and resources to something else." You know what?
Yeah.
Flat out, just delete those posts because you know, they're saying right now, go in there. This is all we're discussing. Nothing else. You don't like it, don't post.
I'm really happy with this post that he made. I feel like it's going in a good direction, and I think you're right. They do need to moderate it a little bit. Go in there and be like, hey, deleting your post, because that's not what this is about. And no one's going to come in here and read your word vomit, your word Shiduki. We're deleting your crap.
Well,
Did they want me to do it? I'll do it.
I think that they'll have a lot less problems with this than they did with the Sentinel Marauder thread. Because generally the people that are going to take time to reply to this are going to be people that actually care about Galactic Starfighter. Unlike people that are going to threaten the developers for making changes to their class.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in this circumstance, they're basically saying, Strike Fighters are underpowered, nobody ever picks them to play. How can we fix that? Which hopefully this will lead to some changes being made, but he did temper it with, I want to set expectations. This is just gathering feedback.
Right.
So something may or may not come out of this. Just if you have thoughts on this, go let them know, and hopefully they will at the very least do some balancing or change some of the meta up with Galactic Starfighter so more people will jump back in there. Alright, so then with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and move into the captain's log. Paige, what have you done over the last week?
You should know you were there for it all. I'll tell the audience, though, because I know they're dying to know what I did. I haven't been PvPing. That's right, I said it. Fred did assist me in leveling a new character that I made. I decided that I wanted some Sork heals for the heck of it, and he was kind enough to run me for a few planets to kind of power level me, you know, because of the gear, and I don't want to die. I returned the favor by doing the same thing for his Sentinel, but I believe I was only there for maybe a couple quests. In addition, we did take 2 sets of tunes to McKeb to ding them to level 55. One was an agent and inquisitor duo that we have. I'm the agent, he's the inquisitor, not our regular group. And then the other was our marauder duo. And let me tell you, those are so much fun to play together. There are people flying everywhere. There's lightsabers flying through the air and just pew, pew, pew. It's awesome. We do have plans to work on characters that mirror our mains on Jedi Covenant on the Republic side, so we're going to be pretty much getting all the levels this week.
Yeah, Lou would definitely be happy. We spent most of the week on Jedi Covenant.
Sure did.
Yeah, and basically with my Sentinel, all she did, she showed up and helped me finish off the end of the Chapter 1 story.
Yeah.
'Cause
I don't remember what I was doing.
basically, I went all the way through it with Treek, and then I got to the end of the chapter, and I'm like, would you help me with this? Because there's going to be a bunch of mobs, and I don't feel like plowing all these down with that companion. Because it's kind of hectic, because the way I'm doing it is I'm trying not to spend comms when I don't have to. So having a high-level character come through there with me prevents me from needing to gear up to finish off the chapter stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing, you know, other than the power leveling, you don't have to spend anything, you know, per se on gear upgrades. I mean, why even bother repairing if you have somebody there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Who did I take with your Jedi Sentinel? Was it my...
Captain Kimbray.
Oh, okay. It was the real Captain Kimbray. She's blonde.
All right, Lou, so what did you do over the last week?
Unfortunately, not a heck of a whole lot. 'Cause I'm still getting used to the new work schedule that changes. So, and because we just had a holiday as well, and some new job that, you know, also heavily involves working during the holiday, which was great. You know, don't mind earning the money, but when I get home tired, so it leaves very little opportunity for me to actually hop on and play like I used to. So what I've only been able to do the past few days has just been running dailies on my max level characters and just making them money.
I told Maury the other day that was what you were going to be doing in SWTOR when you got that job.
Yeah, and also too, you know, real life. I'm in the middle of a move, or going to be in the middle of a move. So next few days as well, you know, it's going to be leave me very little time to do much of anything, whether it's Tor, any game, single player or MMO or anything. You know, the next 3 or 4, maybe 5 days are going to be hectic with me just making the change, switching over, and moving into my new place. So don't be surprised when you hear the same thing next week, folks, because, you know, real life presence is going to have to work in there.
Fun.
Yeah, but, you know, like I said, I'm going through withdrawals, though, because I really haven't, you know, I'm playing SWTOR on all my characters, but I'm only doing deals. I'm not really doing much of anything else. Okay? By contract week, haven't been able to start that, do anything with that yet. Okay? And just going back to my other characters, I'm leveling them up, you know, taking advantage of the 12 times XP, haven't been able to do that either. So, this is what happens when you go through MMO withdrawal. Get the shakes.
Luckily, unlike when you were in the military and doing all that stuff, this 12 times XP is going to be around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Unlike every time you were on active duty, they would throw a double XP weekend.
Right, or an event. You know, it's like, you got to be kidding me. Like the very first Rackle event.
Well, yeah, normally the events that weren't ever repeated or never going to be repeated are the ones that they ran while you were off on duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
The Chevin event,
the
Rackle event.
At least now I get to enjoy them when they come around.
Kind of wish, just for the heck of it, that they would throw a never gonna be repeated event once a year. because I kind of feel like we're never going to get one of those again, and every single event that they do now is going to be repeated to the point that we get sick of them. Oh, well. Speaking of which, Bounty Contract Week is back, and I spent not the majority of my week. I did dailies too, but those aren't really fun enough to mention, and I played around on a bunch of alts that I've been trying to push up. But my main progress was on my new Jedi Sentinel. I got him from 1 to 34 on Jedi Covenant. And I do not have a Sentinel at max level, so I'm looking forward to having one, because all I have right now is my Marauder. And personal opinion, even though I prefer the Empire in 99.9% of all things, I think that the Jedi Sentinel looks more badass when he fights than the Marauder does. It looks more collected and controlled, and the Marauder just looks like he's trying to hack people away.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, I kind of have the same feeling too. Even though I love both my Marauder and Sentinel a lot, I mean, after my Operative, they're two of my favorite classes to play. And when I play my Sentinel, it looks more, how can I say, the fighting looks more graceful. It flows more fluid.
I get the impression that a Jedi Sentinel, the way that they portrayed in the game, the Sentinel is like a master of dual-bladed lightsaber combat. Yeah, so I love my Marauder as far as playing a Sith that dual wields, but as far as presentation goes, I feel like my Jedi Sentinel knows more about what he's doing with those two lightsabers. He's had training to be able to wield them, and the Marauder just knows the bare minimum that he needs to.
Right. Yeah, and Play mentioned in the chat that the Marauder feels or looks similar to what Malgus is like in the third trailer, in the Return trailer. All right, he's just bashing away and just being brute force, direct in your face kind of fighting.
I think both types of fighting have their places.
Oh yeah, I mean when you look at the Marauder, when they in game or in the class trailer or whatever, it looks like it does. It's a mean mofo of a character of an advanced class. I mean the Sith Warrior in and of himself, whether you're a Juggernaut or the Marauder, is always meant to be one of the most feared opponents on the battlefield because they're just in your face. They just want to destroy everything they see. Whereas the Sentinel, as you said, Fred, they look more practiced, more at ease, more fluid in their movements, and it shows. And to me, when I play my Sentinel, everything just flows. When I chain all my attacks.
It's just really sad to me that there's certain classes in this game that I have leveled to, well, at the time level cap 55 and higher multiple times, but I've never leveled a Sentinel before. I have a Marauder, and I'm just like, okay, never did the Sentinel. I guess I'll do that now during 12 times XP, since I've already done Guardian a few times, so I've seen the Night Story. So I'm like, I'm just going to get the level cap.
But as I mentioned before, I got a few episodes way back. The Marauder and Sentinel have one of the coolest looking saber animations in the game. Okay, the dual saber throw. To me, that is one of the most badass animations in the game. I love seeing that animation.
Fred, tell him about how you throw, you force sleep, and then you catch him in the air.
Yeah.
Have you done that, Lou?
Yes, I have.
So cool.
That is very cool.
We'll be playing that Marauder duo that we have. We both play a Marauder together, and you'll see two sets of lightsabers. So 4 lightsabers essentially fly in the air, and then 2 bodies fly through the air, and then here come the lightsabers back to us, and it's a cluster F of lightsabers and leaping, and it's really cool to watch, though.
I mean, before they took away cripple, which was just a single saber throw to slow your opponents or slow your target. Before they took away from the Sentinel and Marauder,
yeah,
I used to love chaining those 2 attacks because you had the dual saber throw, and then the cripple throw, where you just throw one saber at them, kind of like the animation from Return of the Jedi when Vader threw his saber at Luke when they were fighting on second Death Star, that kind of animation. Because that was so cool too. Because the saber looked like a boomerang coming right back into your hand.
Yeah.
They've taken out a lot of moves that were really cool in this game. I still miss Pummel, which was that ability when the game launched, where I don't know if the Marauders had it, but I know the Juggernaut had it, where you would just straight up backhand somebody with your lightsaber that was stunned, and you would take a huge chunk of their health.
Oh, I remember that. Marauders did have that.
Yeah, Marauders Sentinels had that. It was similar to the Trooper's stock strike animation, except instead of using a rifle, you just one hand, and I guess whatever hand it was, you just hit your opponent in the face with the hilt of your lightsaber. And
it was beautiful, and it made like a crunching noise when you hit them, like you
busted them in the nose. Yeah. Oh, that one was awesome. I forgot about that one completely. But as soon as you said it, I was like, oh my god, I remember doing that.
Yep, and it was only useful in PvE because they took that. You weren't allowed to use that in PvP because that would be an extra. I think it was an extra stun, an interrupt that they didn't want players to have. Those advanced classes to have.
I miss that ability.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if they were to take my idea from last episode and add in a new advanced class, these abilities that they've taken out of the game could resurface as those advanced class abilities.
Mm-hmm. It could. Or, how they renamed a bunch of the skills anyway across all the advanced classes. We could see them come back, but in a different name. Once they figure out how to balance it back into the overall scheme of things.
I should start a forum thread once a week asking for Pummel to come back.
Hashtag bring back Pummel.
Pummelgate 2015.
Let's start a trend. I expect everyone in the chat right now to tweet that. Tweet it. I'll be looking.
All right. Well, Lou, we have a pretty interesting discussion topic this week. Do you mind telling people what we have in store?
Sure thing. All right, folks. Not too long ago, our discussion is going to be what the guys over at Bad Feeling Podcast, Chuck and Brian, all right, their episode number 66 was an interview with Alex Modny and I believe Eric Musco as well. All right. Those two lucky bleepers got to go to Byron Austin, I believe.
Lucky sons of guns.
And actually sit down with the two of them, and they had taped the interview where they discussed a bunch of points, mostly rotating around, obviously, PvP. Right, because that's Alex Modny's focus, all right? He's I believe, the lead PvP guru over there. And as always, we highly recommend, though, if you actually do want to listen to the interview in its entirety, go over to Bad Feeling Podcast, look up episode 66, and they've got it there on their site. It's also on iTunes. Want to take a look at it?
I love the tweet that they sent out when they announced the episode today. They were like, what's worse than Order 66? Episode 66 of the Bad Feeling Podcast.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Those guys, they put out a great show, and I highly recommend listening to the entire interview because they supply a lot of information, and they include other things that you're not going to hear in our bullet points here. We just picked out what was most important to us, and we're going to have a little discussion and give our thoughts about it. And some of this came from the forums after the fact because it seemed like all day Alex Modny was popping into a thread about the podcast, about the episode on the Bad Feeling Podcast, and he was answering questions that people had, and he clarified some things, and I included that in this list here that we're going to talk about. So we'll go down here, bullet point by bullet point, and give our thoughts and opinions on it. But we're going to go ahead and knock out the two negatives quickly, because we don't want to dwell on these, because most of this is good news. And the two negative points, there are no new war zones or GSF maps that are currently in development.
Boo, hiss. All right, it's out. That's out.
You know what? Any progress is good progress. I'm not even going to pretend like I'm not disappointed by that, but I'm just happy that we're moving on. Something's happening.
Right, at least.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It is kind of a downer that they have as of now. Okay, as of the interview that they have, the Bad Feeling guys, Bad Feeling podcast, they announced that there are no new GSF maps and no PvP maps / war zones in development. Okay? But who knows? That could change. Like anything BioWare does, they like to play close to the chest. They don't like to announce things way ahead of time, just in case things happen and they had to adjust stuff. I would say don't dwell on that. Just realize that the changes we're going to talk about now is at least a step in the right direction. Okay? At least BioWare has acknowledged the fact that they haven't done a lot for the PvP community lately. And this is just one of the steps they're taking to remedy that. And it's good. I mean, like I said, I don't PvP, but I'm also, I'm a huge StarWars fan. And the two communities, they need each other. We need PvP to survive, to thrive in the game. All right, because there are players that enjoy PvP.
Captain Kimbray.
Yeah, exactly. Like Captain Kimbray. We need to keep that player base happy too, because it's only fair. They pay and they play the game too, and they've really got the short end of the stick for quite a while.
Well, to be fair, Chuck and Brian did say before the actual interview started that they had some conversation that wasn't recorded with these guys, and there's war zones that are in the concept stages, but nothing is actually in active development yet. So they're thinking up ideas, they're planning on doing stuff. Just they haven't moved forward with any of it yet.
Right. So if we look at it from a movie perspective, it's probably going to be that storyboard setup to where they have the concept ideas knocked out, like written somewhere, and they probably have some rough sketches going on. But that's about it. And hopefully, knock on wood, that if once they start that discussion thread that Alex wants, where, well, especially for GSF, okay, if they can get a lot of feedback from the players, critiques, comments, suggestions, what have you, and they move forward with GSF, then to me at least, okay, that's one part of PvP that they're, taking steps towards fixing. Then let's move on now to the other part of PvP, the war zones. Let's move on to that.
Well, and at one point during the interview, they were trying to find out about future content, and Alex said that he couldn't tell them about anything beyond the next patch, which is 3.3, which is when these changes are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be possible that they have a war zone scheduled for 3.4, but he can't talk about it.
Right, like I said, as of now, that's why I said it. As of now, they have nothing. They have nothing, quote unquote nothing to tell us anything about.
But as we're going to go through here, PvPers still have a lot to look forward to, because there's some good changes coming in 3.3, which means that they're actually thinking about PvP more than they have in, the past. Okay, so our first bullet point here. Ranked commendations are going away completely, and Warzone comms are going to be the currency for everything.
Yay!
And coupled with that, PvP armor and weapon costs are being reduced by 30%. Because they gave a stat where they said that only 2% of the endgame PvPers have a full set of ranked gear.
Yes, I remember hearing that, and I was shocked when I heard that stat, because perception, what have you, there is a PvP community on tour, and to hear that, because they BioWare does have the metrics, they have access to all the data, and they flat out, they just stated, less than 2% of the PvP community has the full set of gear, end game gear for them, for PvP.
I would wager that the majority of the PvP community in SWTOR like to do the pre-endgame PvP and be in the low-level brackets, because they don't like the whole expertise thing. But that's another discussion for another time. Hopefully some of these changes will actually get people into the endgame bracket.
And really, who could ever be upset about anything having a price reduction? Especially if it's something that you're going to be using.
I'll tell you who could be upset about that. The 2% of people that grinded it out at full price.
Well, you know what? We are the 98%. Get over yourself.
All right.
Yeah, and I also know, I remember hearing too as well from the interview that I think Brian and Chuck did mention that too. That was concerned that a lot of folks did grind for that gear. Were you gonna get a refund? No. And the other thing as well, they also admitted that yes, they admit that the armor sets and the weapons, that they are a grind. Okay, they looked at the metric and realized, oh my god, it does take a while for players who are consistently playing PvP to get this stuff. And that's what brought about the change to actually reducing the costs for the weapons and armor, because they realized, that is quite a grind, and in order to make it, more enticing for the regular PvPers to do it, and to attract new players to just go out there and try it, because what's going to happen if players hear that, oh, you know what, don't do it because it's a grind, it's a major grind fest, that's all it is. That's going to be a major turnoff. People who may think about doing PvP are going to hear that and go, oh, no, you know what, I'll change my mind. I'd rather just focus on the PvE stuff. So to tell them, hey, 30% reduction across the board for everything, okay, not so bad now.
Yeah,
it's doable.
The ranked comms going away, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Because currently all of that endgame PvP stuff requires regular Warzone comms and ranked comms. And now the ranked comms aren't even going to be a currency anymore. So that's really lowering the barrier to entry to get that endgame PvP gear.
Mm-hmm. It makes it easier for players who are curious and want to try it. They know that it will take work, as anything in any game. It will take work, but it's not going to be as bad, and it's not going to be unbearable. It's a reasonable goal that anyone can strive for and attain. Okay,
so then here is one that has been requested pretty much since the game launched.
Yeah, I remember this.
Credits and XP for PvP matches are being doubled, but Valor amounts will stay the same.
We're going to reduce the cost and we're going to give you more money. That's my kind of party.
Yep.
However, I think they did mention too that, I think it was either Alex or Eric, were also quick to annotate that it still won't be on par with PvE, but it's definitely going to be a heck of a lot better than it is now.
It was pretty much unbearable if you wanted the level of character completely.
Right.
PvP.
But now at least they said they admitted it's not going to be as bad. You can actually, it's not quite there. It's not 1-for-1, but it's a lot better than where it was before.
Well, doubled is a lot better, because when I had my Sith Warrior that was leveling up just through PvP, getting from level 25 to 26 took me 12 matches. And you do the math. Each one of those is like 15 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow, you
that's
spent an entire
hours.
night. Yeah.
Yeah, just to get one level. So 6 matches. Don't think about it as the XP amount and the credits amount you're getting. Think about it as the return for the time spent.
Yeah,
it basically increased the value of your time by twice what it was before.
Right. They made it better to where it's time well spent. You're not going to feel punished for playing that many matches for a little gain, little reward. So, again, a good step in the right direction for the PvP crowd.
Here's one that'll be near and dear to Captain Kimbray here.
I want to say it.
You ever been trying to plant that bomb on the door in Void Star, and a bunch of sages just start throwing down their earthquake, and no, or you're on the Republic side and Sorks are throwing down their lightning storm or orbital strike, and you just can't finish that bomb cap because there's just AoEs everywhere. Well, what are they changing, Paige?
AoE damaging abilities will no longer interrupt capping nodes. That's right.
Now, they did clarify that if it is a CC area effect ability, it'll still interrupt people, but just damaging abilities aren't going to be enough anymore.
Now, the only question I have about this is, like my grenades, for example, if I target someone specifically trying to activate a node, whether they're planting the bomb or trying to take something on Alderaan, if I specifically target them and throw a grenade at them, and it hits some of their group mates, I mean, that's an AoE, but I'm directly targeting them. Does that make sense? Will that count? Will that stop them?
You mean like
or am I going to have to shoot them
splash
too?
damage?
Yeah.
That should count. The thing that wouldn't count is, say, like an orbital strike, or if you're throwing out. See, I want to say mortar volley wouldn't count, but mortar volley has that knock around effect, and that's only on weak mobs, I think.
Mhm.
I don't know if that affects players or not. I haven't PvP'd on a trooper, but let's
but
just say that it doesn't knock people down. If you threw out your mortar volley, then that would not interrupt people.
I'm gonna have to test that to see if I specifically target someone with a grenade, if that's gonna... I don't know.
Well,
We'll see.
Alex was quick to say that when this patch goes on the public test server, they need people to go in there and test that and see how it affects things before it gets pushed out to the live game.
I'm glad to.
Yeah, because it'll make a big difference whether, like, as Paige is saying, whether she's directly targeting the grenade, where that target is the intended target, but the three other players around that person get hit with the AoE damage, but they're not the ones capping. Whereas opposed to, if she targeted someone else and the person capping, isn't a direct target for the grenade, I think that's the problem they need to look at.
I want to say that grenade ability would interrupt the capping, and it's just abilities that are strictly 100% AoE.
AoE, yeah.
Yeah, alright. That's just something that we're gonna have to test, see what happens.
The goal here, they did this to end those matches that are just turtles, where nobody's making any progress. Because we've all been in them. You've been in a Void Star match where both teams are just... There's a couple people at each door just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And nobody's really standing at the door to stop you from capping it, but there's just 3 or 4 area effect abilities that they put down, and then they go to having little skirmishes with everybody else. That sucks, when you just get caught in an AoE and you can't cap the door, and the person isn't even trying to fight you. A lot of times they'll drop an AoE and then they run away from you.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Well, it won't anymore. They're going to have to get in your face if they want to stop you.
Now you have to stand and fight.
I also wish that they'd make it so taking dot damage in certain circumstances wouldn't interrupt you from capping the node.
Good point.
But one step at a time. This will at least change the outcome of several war zones. Because I don't know if you guys have been in there, but I've been in quite a few Void Stars where neither team can get past the first door. Just too many AoEs. Everybody has one. Now, I would also think that this isn't going to affect certain classes like Sentinels and Marauders, where their AoE is an actual melee ability, because they still have to be in your face to hit you with that.
Right.
I think that this is for abilities where you actually get a target reticle on the ground and you have to aim it somewhere. That's not confirmed. We'll find out when it's on the test server and they give us more information, but that's just how I think this is going to work.
Right.
So then our next bullet point here. Ranked PvP will now require 2018 expertise to queue solo. Group queue has no requirements. This is to prevent ranked trolling. As we've seen for the last few seasons now, people like to queue up solo to ranked PvP and be naked. And they do this just to ruin other people's game experiences.
Or
fun doing this
or
crap?
people just going to rank queues just to obtain a crystal that they want to get for that season.
Hey, but to be fair, when I was in there, we won some of those matches.
You were at least going in there and trying. You weren't just intentionally
at least you were willing to
feeding.
fight. Yeah, you were going in there to fight anyway. So.
And to be fair, one of those characters I took in there was Nosh, and he had a full set of PvP gear. Granted, it was like a tier old, but he had PvP gear.
Hey, work with what you got.
And we won some of those matches. I killed Buckeye.
Ooh, you just took it there. Oh, snaps.
And the character
Shots
I
fired.
killed him on didn't have a single piece of expertise gear.
I was in the room when it was happening. So funny.
Now you notice, he killed me several times on different characters, but the one time that I killed him is what's important. Because I told everybody that he had a full set of PvP gear and he had to die first. Whole team just beat him down. It was great.
He is in the chat right now, and he said, "I can't fight back," and then he called you an ass.
You can't say that on here.
Sorry, Buckeye.
Buckeye, I only mention you because you're my favorite. I'm not going to
Aw.
tell you what my favorite what, but you're my favorite.
Oh.
Okay,
No ass.
and then in response to community feedback, you guys remember, oh geez, it had to have been a month or longer ago now when they made that little change so that you couldn't transfer PvP comms to your alts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole debacle of buying the titles and passing them along and then having your alt sell them to get the comms.
That's right. Yeah, I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, they fixed it, said it was an exploit. The PvP community got pissed. And now BioWare has decided that they are adding in a new Warzone commendation lockbox that is going to be on the PvP vendor. You buy it for 99 Warzone comms, and in this lockbox, it's Bind on Legacy. It contains 99 Warzone comms. So literally, you buy this box, you pass it to an alt, they open it, and they get your Warzone comms. And also, it was mentioned on the podcast that this can be used to avoid that whole weapon dance that everybody does to go over the commendation cap. So, BioWare is officially endorsing juggling PvP comms.
Well, I remember we talked about this way back when, where we couldn't understand how BioWare would consider it an exploit when those who focus exclusively on PvE had a mechanism like that already in place.
And
Okay.
I haven't had a response yet, but when I heard the podcast, I sent an email over to Musco to see if he'll clarify. I wonder if they'll add a PvE version of this, because it's still possible to do on the PvE side.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just let us send 99 basic comms to our alts? Because it isn't like basic comms buy the in-game gear.
Right. I mean, at least I believe the PvE side. I think I did this with my operative and my assassin, to where my operative, since I always play her all the time. I'm always going over or approaching or going over the limit of the basic comms. Okay, and I always and recently what I've been doing is I go to the fleet, I go to the comm vendor, and I
Shh, we're not going to tell them how to do
yeah,
it.
all right. I go somewhere and I do something where I'm allowed to actually acquire something.
Yeah, let's keep in mind, they may still officially consider the PvE one as an exploit.
Yeah, right.
We're not going
Okay.
to tell people how to do it, but
Okay.
there,
So
there's
let's just
still
say
a method in
there's
the
a way to
game
do it for the
this.
PvE side, okay? Without now no longer going into further detail, there is a way for PvE to do that as well.
And that's what I told Musco. I didn't explain how. I just said the method for PvE to do this is still in the game.
Mhm.
So how about just giving us a lockbox where we can send it to our alts?
Right. Just let us know, players have been doing it, okay? Not out of malice or bad intent, it's there. And really, who's going to say one way or the other that they really thought it was a bad, quote unquote, bad thing to do.
And
But we'll see what they say.
this was worth noting as well. I don't know if this was a typo, but this is exactly how it read in Alex's response on the forums. The new Warzone commendation cap is going to be 200,000 comms per character. That seems a little high, but I checked it again before the show. That is the number that he entered. So if it ends up being 20,000, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
Copied it right from the forums.
It's over 9,000. I mean, it's 200,000 comms per character.
I don't even. What's the current Warzone comm cap? Like a couple thousand or something? 1,500? Something?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean,
And
it's low. I mean, 200,000, especially with all the prices being reduced, that seems really high to me. But whatever it ends up being, you can go over that comm cap by getting these Warzone comm boxes. Just FYI. But if it's 200,000, I don't know why you'd ever have to buy those boxes.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, but again, if you want to pass the stuff down to your alts, then yeah, it makes sense to be able to buy those boxes and just dump in your legacy storage.
Yeah, I'm gonna be surprised if it really is 200,000. But I didn't want to assume that he typoed that or anything, so we're gonna say it's 200K right now.
200,000, maybe it's supposed to be only 20K.
Yeah, but that's a big number. So, either way, whatever the cap ends up being, you can go over it with the Warzone comm boxes. They completely support that. They're aware it's going to happen. Yada, yada, yada. You don't need to weapon dance anymore. And they said, this is the part that really confused me. He said that when this is implemented, anybody that's over that Warzone commendation cap of 200,000 will be able to go over it. Because it's going to have a soft cap at first.
Right.
So unless that's 200,000 per account, which I don't know why it would be, because nothing else in the game works that way right now, it just seems excessive. So maybe 20,000. Maybe. We'll see. It probably ends with a 0 and starts with a 2. All right. So then, ranked rewards are changing to a system where you earn tokens based on ranked matches and use them to buy whatever rewards you want. You also get a lump sum based on where you placed at the end of the season, potentially allowing a bronze player to get the mount. So to clarify, ranked commendations are going away. Instead of getting ranked comms now, you're going to earn tokens that are seasonal. At the end of the season, any tokens you didn't spend are going to be converted into Warzone comms, which maybe that's why it's going up to 200,000.
Right.
But
that makes sense. So.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense at first, but it could eventually with this. So basically, let's just say season ends, you're bronze, you get 1,000 of these tokens for that. Someone's silver, they get 2,000. Someone's gold, they get 3,000. Just using round numbers here. I have no idea how these tokens are going to work. And then each ranked match you play, if you win and have max medals, you get 10. If you lose, you get 5. However this is going to work. The idea is that even if you completely suck at ranked PvP, if you play a whole bunch of it, you can get whatever the gold tier rewards is. Like if you get 3,000 of these tokens for ranking gold and the mount costs 3,000 tokens, well, okay, you didn't rank gold, you ranked bronze, so you can make up the other 2,000 of those tokens that you need by playing a whole bunch of matches and losing and just piling up the tokens. And Musco did elaborate that it's going to take a lot of work to get the gold tier rewards when you're ranked lower than that. But it's an alternate path. I myself am curious to see how this plays out, since by all indications there's still an incredibly low amount of people in the ranked pool.
Right. I mean, one of the concerns, one of the things I wanted to address, I think, during the interview was, I think they were talking about players' perceptions on how the classes perform in PvP.
Yes, with the sniper being underpowered.
Right, and only because, I think the way the leaderboards are designed, in lots of games, like, you only ever see, like, the top 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, okay? Whatever the number is. And a lot of players go off that small list and then do a rough gauge on how popular or how powerful classes are because of that ranking system. And I think I asked Modny or Musco brought up a good point, saying, well, you really can't go off of that because, again, that's only a small portion of the player base that's actually participating in that type of gameplay. Whereas BioWare has all the statistics. I mean, they have the entire pool of players who participated in that style of gameplay and can say, well, no, I mean, the players are saying this because, we're only displaying the top 100. And they're saying, well, out of that 150 of them are power techs. So, people will say, well, power tech's the most powerful or OP in PvP. Well, not really, because you think about it, those, yes, maybe they're the top 50, but then you've got like another 4,000 players behind them, and maybe those guys are only not even a tenth of the population. So that's what I think that's the message you're trying to spread, is that don't. Yes, you can probably try and use that as a rough gauge, but you really shouldn't let that cloud your judgment of how powerful or underpowered a class can be just because of that. I mean, yeah, it's a point, but they're asking you to take into account the entire spectrum of the player base that's participating in PvP. You know, maybe those 50 are the only 50 power techs out of the pool of 2,000. Okay? So take that, you have to take that into account now.
You know what's funny is when they introduced the interview, they introduced it as an interview with Alex Modny, and it came to one of the questions that they asked Alex Modny when all of a sudden Musco just jumped in there. I didn't even know Musco was there. So he just jumped in there to answer the question really quickly.
Yeah. I believe. Yeah, I think a couple of questions. I believe Eric took those. He actually answered them, and then Alex would just back him up. Not making corrections, but actually, yes, that's correct or that's true. Yeah, that's where we're going. Just again supporting the idea, supporting what Eric was saying.
Yeah, and Musco was the one that explained how people's perception of snipers is anecdotal compared to their internal metrics.
Right, and that's what they're asking players to keep in mind, is the fact that don't let those numbers fool you. Yes, they're part of the equation, but they're not the entire equation for how they're looking at classes and performance in PvP. Because in the end, that's not it's not really fair. You're going to use that really, really small pool to base things off of, whereas you don't have access to the entire database, which they do. And granted, again, I think one of the points that Bad Feeling brought up is the fact that maybe we need to get that across. Just spread it out there, announce that to the player base, say, look, this is again only a small reflection of the player base that's participating in PvP. Don't let it cloud your judgment, don't let it cloud your perceptions or darken them. Just realize, hey, there are other things going in the background that players can't see and won't see, because quite frankly, it's none of their business to see.
Yeah, and I don't want to accuse anybody at BioWare of lying or telling partial truths or anything, but there was one part during that where Musco was talking about the discipline that's being passed out to people that are trolling in ranked PvP and stuff, and he actually said that they're not changing what they're doing at all, but now they're just being upfront and telling people what's happening to these people that are doing these things. Mm-hmm. But it never felt like anything was being done until recently, and that could be perception based, like people saw discipline is publicly being given out now, so they just quit doing the trolling and stuff. Or it could just be that they just recently started disciplining people for real.
Well, something I think that they need to realize, and something I don't think other people realize, is when you're in a crowd of people, and in this case we're talking about PvPers, discipline isn't only for the people that are being punished. Discipline's also for everyone else. When they see that person being punished, they know that something's being taken care of. And then that also puts, and this is kind of ridiculous, but it puts the fear in them. If I do what they just did, I will be punished as well. It needs to be public in a way. Public executions, bring them back.
Well, a lot of MMOs lately have been popping up in the news that they're doing things to publicly shame players that are found cheating in their games and doing things that are undesirable.
I mean, heck, let's use Guild Wars 2. I mean, they're the most famous example so far. All right, the devs literally took control of that character from that player. They took over, the account, I believe. Okay, what I understand, and they had that character naked, well, almost naked, and then the devs publicly executed that character.
That is amazing.
In the city, okay, in the first major city in oh god, not Lions Arch, okay,
Divinity's
the first major
Reach.
city. What's that?
Divinity's Reach.
Yes, Divinity's Reach. That if you know where the main bank is, okay, where they have that moving, I guess, solarium of all the stars and moons of Tyria in the sky in that big display. I think they executed that player there in that area.
Do you remember, Lou, back in the day, West Freeport used to have a guillotine where the EverQuest developers would execute anybody that they found cheating in the game.
Yep, and that's what I couldn't understand because I know, all right, as an older MMO player, okay, coming from that generation who started off with Ultima Online, okay, the very first EverQuest 1, and then to see games go away from the naming and shaming to, oh my god, we can't hurt anybody's feelings. I never understood that. And there are games now that have that strict no naming and shaming. Well, why not? It's because if we have the proof, we're gonna call these people out. It's a known group. Okay, that was one thing I loved about EverQuest 1. All right, you go on the forums. There was a forum dedicated strictly to that, to where other players, could post the proof saying this person is a bank thief, a guild hopper, okay, a really crappy player with a bad attitude. This is their name on this character, on this server. And you know what? No one would group with them. Guilds wouldn't take them in. They were ostracized because they were asshats.
Well, back then it didn't even have to be a forum thing. Like, if you were the kind of person that joined groups and ninja looted, which is what we called it back then, because back in the EverQuest days, there weren't loot settings like there aren't in modern MMOs.
Yes.
You couldn't set it to round robin or anything. It literally, anybody that was in the group that killed that thing could just loot it. And you would get people sometimes where you would kill a boss and a nice item would drop, and they would just literally loot the boss, take that item, and then leave your group and take off.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, the server communities were so small that you literally knew everybody on your server by name. There was no renames. There was no way to transfer off the server. So if that person was known as being a ninja looter that joined groups, took stuff, and left, they would never be able to find a group. And this wasn't a game you could solo in.
Right.
So basically, by doing things that gave you a bad reputation, you essentially killed that character because they could not progress anymore at all because nobody else on the server would be willing to play with you.
Right. No, you couldn't do group content, and you certainly couldn't do raid content because no guild would take you, and no pug would take you because they knew who you were, and that pretty much left, good or bad, it was a player-based policing themselves, and for the most part, it worked. I'm not going to say it worked all the time. It wasn't perfect. Yes, it had its flaws, but you knew that you had to be a team player. You had to be willing to cooperate and deal with certain rules. So, as Farrah was pointing out before, at least now players are beginning to see, I think, a more visceral effect to punishments being handed out, not only for PvP but everything else in the game now. Lately, the past few months, that BioWare has taken action against exploiters and such.
I think at the very least, since they're making it known that they're on this discipline spree, it is discouraging people from bad behavior. Because for the longest time, like when the Ravagers exploit first happened, BioWare had this reputation for, everybody was saying, they don't punish subscribers. So everybody thought, if I pay my $15 a month, they'll never do anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're finally starting to get a rep for being discipline happy. And that's better than having everybody think that they're softies and they're not going to do anything about anything.
Right.
Okay, though, I think that we pretty much wrapped up our discussion topic. So we're all in agreement that most of these changes are good things for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, agree.
Captain Kimbray going to get back into PvP once 3.3 lands?
We'll see.
Right. And again, if you want to hear the entire interview, all right, head over to Bad Feeling Podcast, listen to what Chuck, Brian, Eric, and Alex are talking about, and go to the forums too, the SWTOR forums, and join in the discussion. And if you are a PvPer, hey, toss in your suggestions, comments, and ideas that Alex is asking for.
And if anybody's curious, there was no mention of what the better than cross-server thing was.
Right, yeah. If you're going to ask that question, nothing. They didn't answer that question. Okay, I don't think he was. Did he even bring that up? I don't remember hearing that.
No, I just like the picture that when Chuck and Brian sat down, Musco's like, "Let's get something out of the way. Do not ask about better than
cross server."
It's the only thing that's off the table right now.
So what's better than cross server? Mega server?
So, Musco, what's the one thing you regret ever saying? Alright, so then we go ahead and plow forward into the Star Wars recommendation of the week.
That'd be me. For those interested in actually getting a look at the recommendation of the week, I will be posting a link with a photo on the Facebook wall. And this week we have something from our friends over at swell.com. It is a Star Wars. It's considered a Star Wars shoe. That's the description that they give it. But they're actually Vans. So, little description. They're Vans classic style shoe all over Star Wars themed print. It includes like some walkers and Luke hanging upside down in the cave. And I think a Wampa. I need to click on the picture. Anyway, all over Star Wars themed print, lightweight and flexible canvas, cotton drill lining, gum rubber sole, and vulcanized sole attachment. Vulcanized? Like Spockenized?
Live long and prosper.
Vans do live long and prosper. They do.
Gonna order a pair of these, Lou?
You know, I just might. Yeah, not that bad. Okay.
$60 shoes.
That's right. I should have said that, but yeah, $60.
$60 US.
I will not cut my toenails to wear these.
Ew.
Oh,
I just let Tree chew them till they're small enough to fit in my socks.
wow, I had this disturbing mental image in my mind right now, and I just need a mental bleach.
How about instead of mental bleach, we change the subject and move into the intelligence report?
Yes, let's use this segue. And tonight, for the intelligence report, we are going to cover the Black Suns, part of the scum and villainy in the galaxy. Or in the words of Darth Sidious to Darth Maul, it is a vast criminal syndicate. Its influence felt on every planet from the core world to the outer rim. Black Sun has existed for hundreds of years and embedded itself in the very fiber of the galaxy. The resources at its disposal are almost limitless. The soldiers under its command number in the tens of thousands. The ignorant even call it the most powerful force in the known universe. Yes, Black Sun held a massive amount of reach and influence, extending its tendrils of corruption deep in the various galactic governments of each era. It was infamous for its involvement in piracy and smuggling. But smuggling was just the tip of the iceberg of the galaxy-wide organization. It was involved in every known type of illegal activity. Its information network surpassed even the accuracy and scope of Imperial intelligence, and that's saying a lot. The resources available to Black Sun rivaled those belonging to a large planetary army, including foot soldiers. Below the leader of Black Sun were 9 Vigos, which was Old T&E's for nephew. Each Vigo ruled over his or her own territory and sector. Brief history here. Black Sun was formed at the end of the Great Galactic War. After the sacking of Coruscant in 3653 before the Battle of Yavin, Galactic City soon fell into chaos and rioting, overwhelming the already stretched thin Coruscant Security Force police officers. Look familiar, folks? Taking advantage of the situation, several prominent gangsters joined together and began seizing control of neighborhoods in the lower levels. With this, in reference to the gangsters, denizens of the lower levels coined the phrase, "better a Black Sun than none," and the Black Sun Crime Syndicate was born. Black Sun quickly carved out territory for itself and developed spice and weapons trafficking operations. Though their advance to claim more sectors was halted by the Justicar's Brigade, the rioting and looting never stopped within their own territory. In the following years of the Cold War, Black Sun's influence stretched beyond Coruscant, and the gang became a galactic criminal syndicate. The Galactic Senate soon came to realize the full situation, and CSF forces, such as the Special Tactical Unit, began actively fighting back to regain the sectors under Black Sun's control. It was during this time that the Republic Strategic Information Service began joint operations with the CSF and Republic military to counter Black Sun. SIS agent Theron Shannon tracked a small cell of criminals consisting of Tafith and others on Coruscant in an effort to discover who was founding the Black Sun slavery ring. And now we jump forward to the late Republic era. Although headquartered on Coruscant, the influence of the Black Sun stretched the length of the galaxy, with tens of thousands of foot soldiers and hundreds of leaders based on safe houses and fortresses across the galaxy. The Syndicate was both covertly and openly a force to be reckoned with on a galactic scale. By 33 years before the Battle of Yavin, Black Sun had come under the control of Alexei Garen, who was killed by Darth Maul on Lord Sidious's orders. Other Vigos fell to the Sith Lord's lightsaber as well, and the organization was severely damaged in accordance with Sidious's plan. It would be about a decade before it had recuperated. During the Clone Wars, Black Sun exploited the Republic's focus on the war to drastically expand its activities. At the time, a faction of the Syndicate was controlled by a cabal of Feline nobles under Zomet Grunsight, headquartered on Mustafar. After Savage oppressed murdered Grunsight and his ruling council, Zaitz and Maj assumed control of the faction and pledged allegiance to Darth Maul, the very man who had almost destroyed the Syndicate 13 years prior. Once in the Shadow Collective, Death Watch moved Black Sun's Mustafar weapon stores and equipment to the camp on Zambar in preparation for the planned attack on Sundari. The armed forces commanded by Maj were deemed inefficient for a direct attack, however, and soon were relocated to Zambar until a sufficient force had been assembled. After the Pike Syndicate heard that Death Watch and Black Sun were building an army, Lom Pike quickly moved to join the collective. The last to join were the leaders of the Hutt Cartel. Black Sun and Pike forces, led by Maj and Lom respectively, smuggled themselves into Sundari in crates and launched an attack in the docks as part of an elaborate plan to take the city. Prey Vizsla and his Death Watch warriors faced off against them in a sham conflict which ended with the criminals displayed in cuffs before the new Mandalorian crowds in the royal palace. The support of the people allowed Vizsla to oust Duchess Satine Kryze in a quick and bloodless coup. During the war, Black Sun dealt extensively with the plant Bota, found only on the planet Drongar. Originally, Admiral Tarnis Blade was the main contact with Philba the Hutt for the smuggling. He was later assassinated by Karrde in Adeji, following the death of the former operative Mathal. Another partnership was later established with Thula and Squad Trant to secure the Bota. Upon learning that the Bota was losing its potency, Karrde escaped from Drongar with a supply as a gift for his Vigos. It was subsequently discovered that the case was filled with explosives in an attempt at betrayal by Thula and Trant. Following the war, Pistoica sabotage droids were acquired by Black Sun, which utilized them in chop shots on Nar Shaddaa. Black Sun was known to have several hideouts in remote, scarcely populated areas or planets of the Outer Rim territories. And just as a side note, if you're one of those players who actually were able to play Star Wars Galaxies, you realize that yes, you will deal with them in some way, shape, or form in that game as well. Especially if you're participating in what was called the Jump to Lightspeed expansion, where they actually brought space combat into the game. And one of the factions you face, whether you're Imperial or Alliance, the Syndicates, the crime, there was a neutral faction. They're the bounty hunters, the criminals. You would face the Black Sun in almost every sector of space you were flying in, dealing with them. And so now we move on to a specific event called Transari Point, alright, and this is at Transari Point Station, where the Black Sun had an interest. 1 year after the Battle of Yavin, they had placed 3 bases of operations near Ord Mantell, from which they would commit acts of piracy against traders and civilians. A team of Black Sun slicers even managed to infiltrate the station. Black Sun's dominance in the system changed with the arrival of an unknown spacer, brought there by Han Solo and Chewbacca. This is Galaxies. The spacer ended up in the employ of Cardass, who were responsible for law enforcement in and around the station. This proved to have serious consequences for Black Sun. The spacer was involved in an operation that successfully removed the threat from the slicers and would also fight against the local Black Sun pirates in the Battle of Transari Point Station, in which all Black Sun commanders in the system were killed and most of the local Black Sun wing destroyed. As a result of the battle, the Black Sun presence in the system diminished drastically and their influence disappeared totally. Shortly after, Black Sun tried to regain some influence in the Bright Jewel system by attempting to purchase the Imperial-class Star Destroyer Blackguard off a rogue Imperial captain called Andal Sate. And yes, going back to Galaxies, this is actually one of the main points in that game to where, yes, your character would be rescued by Han and Chewie, taken to Transari Point. Something would happen there, and you would be introduced to the Black Sun pirates, alright, one form or another. And when you landed the first planet they took you to, you had a choice back then, I believe. You would be invited, if you were told, if you wanted to fly in a starfighter, you would have to join a squadron. And again, this brings you back into encountering the Black Sun because almost every mission you go to, either the Black Suns are in that area, you're fighting them directly, or you're passing through their territory to get to your target. And yes, you will end up killing all the local Black Sun, main pilots out there, which is pretty cool. But now we move on to the Galactic Civil War. During the early days of the Galactic Empire, Black Sun was led by Dal Perry, though his mantle was soon usurped by a Black Sun captain named Xizor. The Feline crime lord would lead Black Sun to unparalleled prestige by the onset of the Galactic Civil War. Assisting Prince Xizor was the feminine human replica droid Guri. Guri acted as bodyguard and assassin for the Feline prince. Under Xizor's leadership, Black Sun became so powerful that the prince was considered by some Coruscant courtiers to be surpassed in power only by Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. Black Sun's influence was tremendous. They had practically a limitless amount of credits, more than enough to finance any operation they wished to complete. They ruled the underworld, and few individuals or organizations dared to cross them or pose a threat to them. And now we move on to the Zan Consortium. Xizor also dealt with a rival criminal organization, the Zan Consortium. In 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, Xizor hired Tiber Zan, leader of the Consortium, to steal Tabana gas from a mining facility on Bespin. In actuality, Xizor had laid a trap to dispose of Zan. Knowing Vader had recently subjugated the planet and Cloud City, he hoped the Dark Lord would intercede and eliminate his competitor. Instead, the move backfired on Xizor. Zan betrayed Xizor by planting evidence that pointed responsibility for the theft towards Black Sun. Vader quickly learned of this, furthering the rift between himself and Xizor. And now we move on to 3 years after the Battle of Yavin. We'll go more into detail with what I just expressed. Alright, Xizor had a personal reason to hate Vader. After an accident at a biological weapons laboratory on Xizor's homeworld Feline in 7 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Sith Lord had ordered the area and all the contaminated Feline to be sterilized. The entire area and all living within, some 200,000 Feline, including Xizor's family, were obliterated to prevent the spread of the deadly disease. It was a small price to pay for what could potentially have been, according to Vader, a planet-killing outbreak. Xizor deleted all records of his family's deaths to hide any apparent motives for a grudge against Vader. When Xizor learned that Luke Skywalker was the son of Vader, he planned to kill Skywalker, hoping to permanently discredit Vader in the eyes of the Emperor. By the Battle of Hoth, Xizor had found himself and his organization in close dealings with the Emperor. As part of a grand scheme to ultimately destroy the rebellion and corrupt Luke Skywalker, Palpatine made good use of Xizor's legitimate enterprise, Xizor Transport Systems. XTS would contract 300 ships to the Empire to help transport construction material to the Death Star 2, construction site over the sanctuary moon of Endor. Palpatine's desire to involve Black Sun in his most personal orchestrations was to use the organization as a pawn to plant the secret construction plans to the second Death Star into the hands of the Alliance. Trusting Black Sun, the Alliance would believe that the plans they acquired were legitimate. Shortly before the Battle of Endor, Aurora Transportation tried to usurp control of spice operations in the Baji sector, controlled by the Tenlos Crime Syndicate, an organization in league with Black Sun. In a move both to cripple Aurora and improve his stock with the Emperor, Xizor informed the Empire of an Aurora-owned shipyard in the Bergessil asteroids, being used by the rebellion as a repair dock. The Empire, under the personal command of Vader, quickly destroyed the shipyard and the majority of rebel forces there. Simultaneously, Xizor personally dispatched Guri to assassinate the leaders of Aurora. In addition, Ace Azamin and Iman Azamin also planted a listening device and got a Black Sun insignia for their troubles, to which the former would place at his room as part of his collection. When Vader had finally had evidence of Xizor's attempt to kill Skywalker, he confronted him in orbit over Coruscant. In his personal flagship, Executor, Vader destroyed Xizor's personal skyhook, Feline's Fist, with Xizor aboard. Additionally, Xizor's castle had been destroyed by Skywalker, Leia Organa, Chewbacca, Dash Rendar, and Lando Calrissian. The loss of its leader and so much of its infrastructure crippled Black Sun to an extent from which it would never recover. New Republic and beyond. Several attempts to restore the power of the Syndicate were made, including one by Xizor's niece, Savan, and one by the Geoda Deku, who termed his enterprise Black Nebula. In 6 years after the Battle of Yavin, as part of the New Republic's attempt to liberate Coruscant, 16 of the galaxy's most treacherous criminals were released from the prison colony on Kessel in order to cause disruptions that were intended to allow infiltration by New Republic agents, including the members of Rogue Squadron. This tactic backfired, as it released prisoners including Zeka Tyne and former Moff Fleary Voru went on to successfully resurrect Black Sun. By the time of the Thrawn Crisis and the return of Palpatine, Black Sun was headed by Yul Akib. Working with Grappa the Hutt, he attempted to take control of the Imperial Interim Ruling Council to no avail. In 24 years after the Battle of Yavin, Zethros attempted to bring back the criminal syndicate to its former glory and to dominate the galaxy. He planned to take over by sending spies and operatives in the most key points in it, and sending them out all at once. He sent them in many places, including Cloud City, Ord Mantell, Anubis, Kessel, and Crystal Reef. In their failed Kessel uprising, the New Jedi Order retrieved Zethros and the signal he planned to send. The New Republic, then one at a time, warned the locals, sent the signal to a planet, and arrested thousands of Black Sun agents across the galaxy and effectively destroyed the organization. In 43 years after the Battle of Yavin, the New Jedi Order collected clues about a reorganization of the Syndicate. And now we move on to Darth Krayt's Galactic Empire. By the time of the Sith Imperial War and the Second Imperial Civil War, Black Sun was active again, with its structure unchanged over the centuries. However, the organization had abandoned its former secrecy and now openly displayed its symbol on ships and stations to intimidate rivals and victims. It was dealing in illegal Yuzhan Vong weapons, extortion, and was particularly active in the Outer Rim, where it was responsible for attacks on Imperial convoys. And this concludes the brief on the Black Suns. Hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I wish to say thank you to the Wikipedia, StarWars.com, TheForce.net, and other great Star Wars lore sites, folks. If you enjoy the history and lore of Star Wars as much as I do, please go to these sites, look up your favorite topics, and enjoy.
Yep, Republic side, check out Coruscant. You'll see a Black Sun holding on a planet.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, as I mentioned before earlier on in the report, okay, that is actually one of the coolest parts of if you played the Jump to Lightspeed portion of Galaxies, which was the Starfighter portion. Okay, you would actively go to your squadron, get missions, and one way or another you would encounter Black Sun, because they were pretty dominant in the area, in any area of space. But they were they pretty much had their fingers in everything, especially in the Outer Rim worlds where you visited in that game. Okay, not only did you have to worry about the Hutt cartel, you had to worry about the Black Suns being there too, and they were always an uneasy truce between those two syndicates, because they knew operating in the area, sooner or later they'd come to blows, and there you are, whether you're an Imperial pilot or an Alliance pilot trying to do your mission, you're like, oh crap, I have to deal with these guys.
Well, I think if it wasn't a BioWare exclusive, the Exchange would have given them a run for their money.
Yeah, I would like to see that, because again, I think that's one thing that maybe one day in the Wall of Crazy that BioWare could bring into the game. People have always wanted that third faction, or at least a third group to belong to or work for. If not belong to, yeah, you still belong to the Empire or the Republic, but you can also pick up missions, side jobs, side quests from this neutral party, and they would be the syndicates. Okay.
Fallen Empire, everybody sells out to the cartels.
It's the Hutt cartel, the Exchange,
Black Sun,
the Black Suns, or whoever. And that's a great thing too. And just for any BioWare game, especially if you play Mass Effect. Okay, in Mass Effect 2, the criminal organizations there are extensive. Right? They're just as extensive as the criminal organizations in Star Wars and in SWTOR.
Oh, don't forget about Zerka.
And Zerka. Yeah, well, Zerka's even more insidious, because they're just a real snake in the grass, because they're a legitimate corporation.
Yeah, but they're a legitimate corporation only in the sense that they do some really shady things, and they have the people that can do a paper trail to hide it. Mm-hmm.
They've got the tools and talent to actually hide what they're doing.
I got the tools and the talent.
And the talent's right. Now you're dumb, ugly, and dead.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move into the Community Holo feed on that horrible note.
I've had enough.
First up is the trivia question of the week, where each week we're going to post a trivia question into our YouTube video version of the show. Simply go to StarWarsBeyond.com and we'll link you right to the episode. On the episode page, there will be a button for you to press to see the trivia question of the week. Alternatively, it'll always be after we say our goodbyes. Then shoot us an email with your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. In the email, include your character name, your faction, oh sorry, stuck in a loop, and your server. If there's more than one correct answer, we'll do a random drawing to win a cartel pack. Everyone that answers correctly will be entered into a drawing for a much larger prize, which we'll do on the show every few months. We're getting close to another one. You can be entered into the grand prize drawing every time that you answer correctly. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this may or may not be the only grand prize, but this time around, we're going to be giving away a hyper crate. So start doing your entries now.
No way.
Way.
Yep.
Hyper crate. So wait, they get to choose between either hyper crate or an item from the store, or
maybe both.
Or both. Ooh.
We're gonna see how many names we have in the pool. Unique names.
Yeah, folks, if this doesn't give you an incentive, come on, possibly get a hyper crate and an item from our store.
Yeah, just to reiterate, even if you don't win that particular week, you're still in the grand prize drawing.
Right, you have a chance at the grand prize. Come on. Do it.
All right, Lou, do we have a winner this week?
Yes, we do. And the winner this week is Fluffy Vert.
What do we have for him, Johnny?
And we have for them a cartel pack, which they will receive in the mail.
You sounded like really disappointed. We have for them a cartel pack.
Well, it's a
I
cartel
feel
pack.
like they won and they got the runner-up prize the week we announced that. A brand new TV, 17 inches.
I wish I could say something like that. Because, yeah, you won a Rancor mount. Heck no. No one gets that.
You won a brand new chair for 1 credit. 1 credit only.
That's on the decoration vendor. That doesn't cost any reputation points. You win that. But yes, congratulations, Fluffy Vert, for getting the correct answer for the trivia question. And since you probably want to know what the answer is,
keep them waiting.
The answer to last week's question is Juhani. Yes, your favorite, maybe not so favorite, Cathar Jedi from KOTOR, the very first Knights of the Republic,
who wore very ugly clothes that you can buy on the cartel market.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for her outfit on the GTM because it doesn't really sell. I mean,
that's because it's ugly.
Yeah, all right, granted. Okay, I don't care if I didn't like it anyway. When I first played KOTOR way back when, I was like, wow, that's a really crappy outfit she's wearing. Okay. Yes, it's Juhani. Remember, if you remember her story, she was sold into slavery to pay off a debt that her parents owed to her organization, to a criminal organization.
It's a hell of a debt.
Yes. Okay. And one day, a group of Jedi Knights was passing by their planet that she was on a mission, and they happened to encounter that group of slavers who had Juhani and others with her. And they freed them. They stopped long enough to fight off the slavers and free them. And because of that, Juhani sought out the nearest Jedi temple. And because they realized that she was a Force sensitive, they took her in. And remember, you encounter her on the Jedi temple on Dantooine. Alright, where she's undergoing training.
Dantooine!
It's far too remote. Sorry, for an effective demonstration. Okay, and remember, she was punishing herself because she believed she had killed her master during one of the sparring sessions. And she believed she had fallen, quote unquote, to the dark side. And depending on what you do with her, whether you go on light side or good, dark side, okay, you convince her otherwise, or if you're a dark side player, tell yes, you've fallen and follow me. Okay, fine. Alright. You redeem her, or you just continue her fall to the dark side, depending on how you play your game.
Just
kill
her.
So, well, I believe, KOTOR, if you do go full dark side, I think not only do you get to kill her, option, or do you just get to kill? Spoiler alert! But you have the option to kill both Zalbar and Mission Val, by the way,
Good.
or as we know her, as Vat in Tor. So,
You could buy her clothes as well.
yes, and you're right, Pele. It was Revan. It was Revan and a group of other knights who were passing through that star system. I believe it was Taris. I'm not sure which. I had to look back. But yeah, they stopped. And when they found the slavers, they actually freed them. And it was Revan. She remembers, I think, looking at Revan, and she described Revan to your character. Who's you, by the way. Spoiler alert. So again, congratulations, Fluffy Vert. And because of this, you now entered into the grand prize drawing, which will be coming up soon, TM.
To win a hyper crate.
To win a hyper crate and the possibility of getting something else, an item, physical item from the store we have.
Based
I'd
on
also-
participation.
Yes.
I'd also like to offer a greasy hug from Sith Lord Korv.
And that will be passed out by Treek.
Twizzlers not included.
Hey, Lou, you want a Twizzler?
No, thank you.
Yeah, what? Here, take this, Kimberly.
I know. I'm allergic.
Yeah, listen here. I spend a lot of money on these cybernetics that convert my feces into Twizzlers, and somebody's gonna eat these.
Treek will gladly eat those.
Sorry, Imperial's
the
bullying
janitor?
toy team.
Where's
Oh.
the janitor?
It
He'll
was-
eat anything.
That's all we feed him is Twizzlers.
Don't let him know where it comes from. He
Where's
thinks
the
it's a
Imperial Domestic Engineer?
Is that his real title?
If it isn't, I think I could make quite an impression with that in the database and probably have it changed.
I'm going to call him our Shaduki Shoveler.
I already sent in a request to have his title changed to Captain Crapper.
No, there's only one captain on this ship, and that's me.
But he's on an entirely different floor where the plumbing leaks.
No, she's right.
In our SWOTOR community, check out our fellow SWOTOR podcasts. Most of them are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at SWOTORnetwork.com. ToroCast has ended its run and will no longer be producing content. Best of luck to Road, May, and Minor. May the Force be with them always. Corellian Run Radio at CorellianRun.com. UntiniCast at UntiniCast.com. SWOTOR Escape Podcast at NewOverlords.com. The Usual Podcast at TheUsualPodcast.com. Old Republic Radio is on iTunes. Healing SWOTOR is on iTunes. And the Bad Feeling Podcast is at TheBadFeelingPodcast.com. Be warned, that's an explicit podcast. Also, follow Madmar at SWOTOR Family for the latest happenings in the SWOTOR community. If you'd like to have your podcast listed on this segment, send us an email, StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com.
Just a quick note there. ToroCast is going to be missed. It was SWOTOR's longest running fan podcast, as it reminded us every episode. Road will especially be missed, and I hope that from time to time we hear him pop into the GGC so we still get to hear from him. But everybody else is pretty much doing other projects in the community, and it's great that they're still going to be around.
And as always, we wish Road good luck in his future ventures, and hopefully we will see him back again, involved in one way or another with the SWOTOR community.
Yeah, maybe when things settle down after his move.
Yeah, remember, Road, if you haven't heard, remember Road's going through some real life stuff. Okay, major stuff going on in his life. Nothing bad, just, changes. And so, of course, he has to adapt to it.
He's becoming an astronaut.
So, hopefully when things settle down and he's in a good rhythm, good routine, we'll see him come back to the Tor community and, again, be a voice to be heard.
Yeah, when NASA gets done with him, hopefully he'll come back.
Right.
And one more time, Bad Feeling Podcast, episode 66. They did a wonderful interview with Alex Modny, and Eric Musco's there as well. Check that out. We highly recommend it. It's where our discussion topic came from tonight. And not only episode 66, you should check out their entire podcast series. They do a wonderful show over there. And also, now I'm going to tell you one last time how you can get a hold of us. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can send us an email to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. You can tweet us. The show is at StarWarsBeyond. I am at SithLord Corv. Lou is at GamerGuy11B. Paige is at Asa Fiery. And if for some reason you want to contact the janitor, he's at Wild Piper. And now it's time for our final thoughts.
My final thoughts. I'm glad some changes are coming to the PvP community. It's about time, and I'm excited to try them out.
As for me, I'm glad that Chuck and Brian had a chance to sit down with Alex Modny and Eric Musco and discuss the upcoming changes that they want to bring to PvP. I'm glad that the PvP community now has some stuff coming their way.
Some
right
light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's no longer just an empty phrase. As if you hear the interview, if you listen to it, you do realize that they do know that the community is, for lack of a better phrase, hurting for content, hurting for things to do, for incentive, and they're working to address that. Okay, so especially now that they're focusing, I believe, first on GSF. If you are a fan of Galactic Starfighter, okay, go in there. Leave your suggestions, help them out when it comes time. Time comes for it to be on the PTS. Go on there, test the hell out of it. Okay, help them make, at least right now that since they're working on GSF, focusing on GSF, help them make GSF better than it is. It's fun, but as with anything, it can get better. It can always improve and make it more enjoyable. So get in there, give your feedback, help them out. Be helpful, be constructive. And who knows, maybe they'll use your idea.
I wish that they would run that GSF event again with the Narsadon Nightlife event, the one that gives you double credits for doing GSF.
Mm-hmm.
That would be wonderful.
Who knows? I hope they will bring that in there.
It pretty much funded my gambling. And as my final thought, I just want to, again, thank the Bad Feeling guys for doing that interview. It was great. It provided a lot of stimulating thought when I listened to it. And believe it or not, we had a whole nother show written and ready to record for tonight. But when I listened to that interview, I'm like, we're going to push that other stuff back because this is more pressing and something that we actually got passionate to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, Beyond the Stars is an independently recorded fan podcast made in association with NSG Productions. And now it's time to say goodnight.
Good night, everybody, from Captain Kimberly.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you all again next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
You've served your purpose.
Beyond the Stars trivia question for the week of 28 May 2015. First clue. My early life was that of a miner, toiling away amongst the outer rim. Second clue. Fleeing the authorities after killing a soldier in self-defense, my path would cross into the dark side. Third clue. I would use my gift in the Force to become a skilled soldier and leader, using common weapons in conflict. Fourth clue. I found my apprentice as a young child, alone on a battlefield, mourning the death of a friend. Fifth clue. In the end, I would be supplanted by my apprentice, not by martial skill, but through a battle of wills, minds. Who am I? Okay, folks, send your responses to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. And in your email, please include your answer, your character name, your faction, and did I mention faction, and the server you play on. As always, good luck. Looking forward to seeing your responses.